What's going on, everybody? My name is Nick, and welcome to another episode of Short Circuit Sports, the channel that brings you weekly major coverage of the sports world from a fan's perspective. I cover anything and everything from breaking news to scores and predictions with analysis to bring you guys anything that you might have missed in the sports world. That being said, we got a lot going on in this episode. We got news out of both the MLB, the NBA, and as per the usual, we got news out of the NFL as well, so stay tuned for those details to come. For those of you that do follow this channel, you guys do know that I normally cover the NFL, but I do try my best to include news out of the entire sports world, and that is what is going to happen today. So for those of you that are not currently subscribed, please subscribe, like this episode, turn on your notifications, the whole thing. Would really help me out, would also really help out the channel, and I would like to reach more of you guys on a week-to-week basis as well. So without further introduction, stay plugged in, stay charged up, and let's get into it. So starting with the news out of the MLB, the Houston Astros have signed arguably the best closer in baseball, 29-year-old Josh Hader from the San Diego Padres is now a Houston Astro. Last season, he posted a 1.28 ERA and a whopping 33 saves. I'm not a huge fan of the Houston Astros, but I will say that if their goal was to attempt to reach the ALCS again, and possibly another trip to the World Series, this is a major stepping stone in that direction. I know the Dodgers were interested in signing Hader. I know there were a bunch of other teams interested in him as well. And yet he goes to the one team that, is only a couple pieces away from going back to the World Series again. So Houston Astros, an out-of-the-park signing closer Josh Hader. Moving on to news out of the NBA, the Los Angeles Clippers have signed star forward Kawhi Leonard to a new 3-year, $152.4 million contract extension, keeping him under contract through the 27 season, according to The Athletic. So, say what you will about the Clippers and their injury history and Kawhi Leonard and load management and the whole thing. Those thoughts are warranted, and it's mostly a I'll believe it when I see it kind of thing, where it's like, if the Clippers are going to compete for a championship, I need to see it first. I need to see all of them stay healthy. And Kawhi Leonard has not been able to show that he is capable of staying healthy throughout the playoffs. That being said, when healthy, as I've said before in past episodes, when healthy, he is a star. He is a championship caliber player that the Clippers sorely need in order to compete for an NBA championship. And the way that he has been playing this year, and as well as the chemistry that he has built with Paul George, who is also in talks with the Clippers for a contract extension, with newly acquired guard James Harden, with guard Russell Westbrook. If these Clippers can stay healthy, I do think that they can compete for a championship. And now with this kind of contract extension, the Clippers are competing for championships going into their new stadium, the Intuit Dome in Inglewood, and they will at least be attempting to compete through the 27 season. After that, if they decide to rebuild and get off those major contracts, then I can see that happening as well. Now, currently in the NBA, this is where every team stands as of today. The Minnesota Timberwolves and the Boston Celtics are your number one seeds for both the Western and Eastern Conference. Here, I'll just get out of the way here. You've got the cellar dwellers of the San Antonio Spurs and the Detroit Pistons sitting at the bottom of the conferences. I will say that the Oklahoma City Thunder have come pretty much out of nowhere for me. I know that they've got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is an MVP candidate, but the way he has been playing and the way that a lot of these young guys are starting to show up for Oklahoma City, you can make the argument that they have arrived as one of the new major draws in the NBA. I do think that the Thunder are going to be competing for championships, not just this year, but for the foreseeable future as well. And I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, SGA, is going to become a household name relatively soon. You've also got the defending champion Denver Nuggets sitting there in third place. You've got the Los Angeles Clippers, who have had an outstanding last month. And then at number one, who'd have thought that you would have had the Minnesota Timberwolves as your number one seed? Just an absolute great year by the Timberwolves. You've got Anthony Edwards. You've got Karl Anthony Towns playing very, very, very good ball for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And you could make the argument that this Timberwolves team are not pretenders. You can make the argument that they are championship contenders. Moving on to the Eastern Conference, of course, you've got the Boston Celtics as your number one seed. You've got the Milwaukee Bucks, not even 3.5 games behind. And then you've got the Philadelphia Sixers, and then there's everybody else. So the Philadelphia 76ers have the luxury of having probably the MVP frontrunner in Joel Embiid. You've got Giannis Antetokounmpo with the Bucks, and then you've got Jason Tatum with the Celtics, all playing pretty good ball over the course of this last month. But then again, it's not how you start, it is how you finish. And a lot of things can happen in a very short amount of time. I cannot wait to see what happens. So last week, when I was covering the head coaching carousel and all of the different head coaching openings, these were the guys that I kind of thought that these are the ones that teams are mostly looking at to fill a lot of the vacant roles on their team. And I also said where I thought a bunch of these guys would go. This is kind of a continuation off of that because the Las Vegas Raiders have decided to stay with Antonio Pierce, making him no longer the interim head coach, but the official new head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. I thought this was the no-brainer move for the Las Vegas Raiders. I thought Antonio Pierce was perfect for the culture that they were trying to build. You had players in the Las Vegas Raiders locker room threatening to demand a trade if they did not keep Antonio Pierce as the head coach. So, great move by the Raiders, and I think that if they were trying to contend now, this is the guy that they needed in the locker room to do that. Great move by the Las Vegas Raiders. The New England Patriots also decided to stay in-house with their new head coaching hire, sticking with defensive assistant Gerard Mayo, former linebacker for the Patriots, and now the new head coach of the New England Patriots as well. If they were deciding to stay with a Belichick-like play style, this was a guy that I thought the Patriots would very much look at as being a guy that could potentially take over as the new head coach, and that is what they ultimately decided to do. I also thought they could very well go after a Mike Vrabel, former head coach of the Titans, also a Belichick guy, but staying in-house with a guy that knows the system, knows the players, the whole thing. I think that this was a relatively smart hire to lead a rebuild for the New England Patriots. Now, This just happened, I believe it was yesterday, where the Chicago Bears have decided to interview USC Trojans offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury. Actually, no, he was the offensive analyst and quarterbacks coach at USC. They are interviewing Cliff Kingsbury for an offensive coordinator role for the Chicago Bears. Why is this significant? Because he was in the building for Caleb Williams. He coached him. And if the Bears are electing to draft Caleb Williams number 1, Caleb Williams would do very well to have guys that know him, know his play style in the building. And if the Bears elect to hire Cliff Kingsbury, who is also a former head coach in his own right, he was the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals for a spell, was a coach of Kyler Murray, kind of a similar play style. I do think that the Bears could very well be on their way to drafting Caleb Williams number 1 overall. Whether you agree with that, whether you disagree with that, whether you believe that the Bears should hold on to Justin Fields and draft help to at least build around a quarterback for once, all arguments are kind of valid here because the Bears, let's face it, have been the picture of dysfunction recently. I do think that with Caleb Williams, you restart the rookie contract clock where you don't have to pay a rookie quarterback that much money, and then you can actually attempt to build around a rookie quarterback. Whereas if you hold on to Justin Fields, you have to sign him to a contract extension, major money, creates a little bit of salary cap problems. But whatever the Bears decide to do, they are going to be looked at with a certain level of scrutiny. But I mean, they've got to do what they've got to do in order to stay relevant, stay competitive. And if signing Cliff Kingsbury to an offensive coordinator role would help them in that regard in order to convince Caleb Williams that playing for Chicago is not the worst thing that he could do, then they've got to do what they've got to do. The Los Angeles Chargers are still looking for their potential head coach and GM, but they have interviewed Jim Harbaugh for their head coaching opening. They've met with him, I think they've met with him definitely once. I don't know if they met with him twice. Maybe it was a virtual call. I don't know. I do know that Jim Harbaugh is also being looked at by the Atlanta Falcons for their head coaching opening, but for right now, Jim Harbaugh remains the number 1 favorite to land the head coaching job for the Los Angeles Chargers and to be the new head coach for young quarterback Justin Herbert. I, for one, thought this would be a no-brainer hire. It's going to take a little bit longer, I believe, because there's some things that he has to work out, and he's technically still in contract negotiations with Michigan to stay as their head coach. So we will see how this plays out. It's not a done thing yet, but I do believe that in the coming weeks he will be announced as the Los Angeles Chargers head coach. This is a matchup that I did not see coming. I did not see Bill Belichick interviewing not once but twice for the Atlanta Falcons head coaching opening. Now, Atlanta doesn't really have a whole lot going for them. They do not have a starting quarterback that I believe is a starting caliber quarterback, but they do have a bunch of young talent on offense. Getting Bill Belichick in there would certainly make them a little bit more relevant. I don't know how long it would take for them to actually compete for a divisional win, but I do think that if you give Bill Belichick a certain level of control, because you definitely need somebody in there that knows how to win, knows how to build a winning culture, and Bill Belichick has proven that he can do that. So whether or not this happens, I'd certainly be interested to see what would happen if you mixed the Atlanta Falcons with Bill Belichick. But do I see this happening? Not particularly, but if it does happen, at least watch out for the Falcons next year to see what they can do with Bill Belichick as their head coach. I don't know. And finally, this is my top 5 games to watch and look out for the divisional round, along with their predictions. Now, last week, I did not do so hot. I went a whopping 2-4. It was not a good week to be me for my picks. Hopefully, this is the week that works out for me. So, let me get out of the way here. So, starting with the number 1 game, I've got the Baltimore Ravens beating the Houston Texans at home, 31-24. Look, I'm all aboard the CJ Stroud hype train. I've been a proponent of him. I believe that he very well could win Offensive Rookie of the Year. I do think that award should go to Rams rookie receiver Puka Nacua, but if they gave it to CJ Stroud, I would understand. Making it to the divisional round as a rookie quarterback is no small feat, and the way CJ has been playing, I do believe that he is not going to be a stranger to the playoffs in his career. Unfortunately, I do think that it is going to be a Lamar Jackson coronation this year. I do believe the Ravens are going to be most likely making it to the Super Bowl. I just think that this Baltimore Ravens team is just way too talented. They've got Lamar Jackson on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side, you've got Roquan Smith. You've got Kyle Hamilton roaming the secondary. I just think that this Ravens team is going to overpower this very, very young Texans team and move on to the AFC Championship game to face the winner of the Bills and Chiefs. Speaking of the Bills and the Chiefs, I've got the Bills winning this one 27-24 at home. This has not been the Chiefs' greatest year. You've got questions about whether or not Andy Reid is going to retire. This is this is Patrick Mahomes' statistically worst season as a starter. And if there's a year to knock off Patrick Mahomes playing his first playoff road game, I think in the cold of Buffalo is where it's going to happen. And based on the way the Bills played last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers, I've got the Bills winning this one due to them having all of the momentum going into this one. Moving on, you've got the Green Bay Packers at the San Francisco 49ers. I think this one is going to come down to whoever has the ball last. This is going to be a very, very close game. Jordan Love has been playing lights out for the Green Bay Packers in his first full season as a starting quarterback. Who would have thought that Jordan Love would be the guy that everybody's looking at like he's got next? Jordan Love has been playing very, very well. He looks like the spitting image of Aaron Rodgers. And for everybody in the NFC North that are fans of the Lions, the Bears, the Vikings, seeing Jordan Love playing like he is right now in the playoffs has to make you sick, because now the Green Bay Packers have gone from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to now Jordan Love, and they are not skipping a beat. So I think the Green Bay Packers have definitely been overachievers this year. I did not have the Green Bay Packers playing as well as they are right now. Unfortunately for them, I think that their luck is about to run out against the San Francisco 49ers, who have had their share of up and downs all year long. They started off hot, then they had a losing streak, and then they got hot again. So we'll see what Brock Purdy has in store for us in this particular game, but with the talent that San Francisco has on both sides of the ball, I think that they're going to have just enough to overpower Jordan Love and this Green Bay offense. And then finally, you've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Detroit Lions. I've got the Detroit Lions winning this one 24-20. I'm gonna give Baker Mayfield his props right here. I think that he has been exactly what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have needed ever since Brady retired. He has been the absolute vocal leader for this offense, and nobody thought that Tampa Bay would be where they are right now. But here they are, having just upset the Philadelphia Eagles, but now they have to go to Detroit, who is coming off of a major emotional win against the Los Angeles Rams and former quarterback Matthew Stafford. I think that the Lions definitely smell blood in the water right now. I think that they are homing in on a potential NFC Championship berth, and as much as I like Baker Mayfield and the story of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I just think that the Detroit Lions have way too much momentum going on with them right now, and I think it's just going to be way too much for Tampa Bay to overcome in this one. So that is all the time that we have got for this particular episode. If you like this episode, please subscribe, like this episode, turn on your notifications. The whole thing would really help me out, would also really help out the channel. And if you agreed with anything that I said, disagreed with anything that I said, or I didn't cover anything that happened in the sports world that you would have liked me to cover, let me know down in the comments, and I will be sure to address those comments in either future episodes, or I very well might debate you in the comments. You never know. So, with that being said, have a great rest of your day, ladies and gentlemen, and I will see you guys on the next episode of Short Circuit Sports. Have a good one.